Welcome to episode 40 of 10 Minute Record Reviews. This time we're going to talk about Kendrick Lamar's album from 2017, Damn. So Damn is very much, Kendrick Lamar's work is very much what's called conscious hip hop or sometimes political hip hop. So this is not party beats. This is music which I guess you could say traces its roots back to people like Gil Scott-Heron. So this album comes out on the heels of an absolute monster album, To Pimp a Butterfly. Damn comes in at number 1 on Billboard. It stays in the top 10 for 25 weeks, sells a cajillion copies, but its mood is different from To Pimp a Butterfly. It's a deeply religious album, but it's complicated. This isn't, songs of praise and about, heavenly reward. This is about human failings, frailty, concerns about the limits of faith and the way in which faith is used and interpreted. It's also about depression and self-doubt. There are two big themes in this record. One is this ambivalence about Christianity. A guy called Rodney Carmichael at NPR who did a great discussion of this album a while ago, and his point was essentially that the challenge that Lamar is going through here is, what does it mean when the tool of your liberation is also the tool which your oppressors have used to keep you down. Similarly, is that faith powerful enough to overcome the social collapse that the ethical collapses that Lamar sees around? Is it powerful enough to overcome the Trump era and all the horrible things that have come with that? The second theme is very specifically a theological theme about the Black Hebrew Israelites, which is not at all mainstream. It has some quite distinct views about the place of Black people in history, in religious lineage, where specifically that Black folks descended from the Israelites of the Old Testament, that they, along with Hispanic and Native American people, are God's chosen ones, but they've strayed, they've been cursed, need to be led back to righteousness. So it's a complicated kind of message. So it's a religious album, but it's about despair paired with spirituality. And I think it's also, there's some personal cries for help in here as well. So the music is a double album, so I'm not going to talk about every track on here, but there's a number of tracks that I think you just have to discuss. The first of those is on side 1, which is Yah, which of course is I think a play on Yahweh. This is the cut which is most directly about the Black Hebrew Israelite theology. He's rapping, he's saying, I'm not a politician, I'm not about a religion, I'm an Israelite, don't call me black anymore. Deuteronomy says we've all been cursed. And the reference to Deuteronomy, I was curious, so I looked it up, and not knowing it by heart, needless to say, in chapter 28, verse 64, and the Lord shall scatter thee among all people from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods, which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. So again, it's the sense of Black people being chosen by God, but also being cursed and being scattered. I mean, this of course, you can see how this resonates. It's a fascinating song. Like all of the tracks on this album, the lyrics just beg to be poured over again and again. But that's what one of the earliest sort of clearest sort of religious statements that's on here. Side 2 includes 2 of the 3 singles which were released from this album. Loyalty, which has 2 guest appearances, one by Kung Fu Kenny, the second by Rihanna. Both are. Kung Fu Kenny I'd never heard him before. He's got this sort of super nasal sort of flow, and which works pretty well. And then Rihanna is just great. Rihanna's piece is not very long, but she kind of gives a précis of her whole career and life in about 15 seconds. It's just so expert, what she does. Its song itself is all about loyalty and allegiance and all the different kind of versions of that. Street versions, but other personal loyalty and allegiance and so on. The other huge hit on this side, on side 2, is Humble, which was the first single which was released. Came in at number 2 and went right away to number 1, and which is very very radio worthy, very radio friendly track, and all about thematically Kendrick. This is a bit more of a kind of a typical, let's put it this way: it's not a religious track. This is about telling up and comers to to sort of appreciate that he had to work hard to where he got to, you know, and joining them to be humble in the face of, you know, in the face of any, you know, sort of wealth or success that they entertain. And it's also about, you know, about being real in terms of, you know, people's physical appearance and the presentation and so on. Side 3 has a couple of, well actually really all 3 of the tracks on side 3 I thought were which are Lust, Love, and XXX are the 3 tracks on side 3. Lust is a kind of a funny song about different about routine and the things which make us break our routine. There's this recurring theme where the title of the song comes from, which is essentially a dialogue between, you know, a guy and a girl, and includes the recurring phrase, "Let me put the head in." It's also about material desire. It's also about anger. It's also about confusion about, you know, in the age of Trump as well. By contrast, Love, which came out as a single, is just a pure love song. It's really the only pure love song on this whole album. It's about his fiancée. Sakari comes in, adds these really ethereal vocals at the end of each verse or end of each line, which was a great contrast to Kendrick's delivery. And then XXX, which is notable amongst other reasons for U2's guest starring. Their appearance is not particularly long. They only come in a couple times, but it's really quite impactful. It doesn't sound at all like U2, although you can tell it's them. But it's not a very U2-like intervention. And this is a song about police oppression, about the demonization of black communities, very resonant, well, certainly this week in North America. And the last side, 3 songs, Fear, which is an epic. I think this is the most moving song in the whole album. It's a kind of a tour through all of, you know, sort of Lamar's his emotions, his life. Backward masking is here too. You know, for those of you who missed that from Zeppelin in the 1970s, he's making a comeback here. This is about his harsh upbringing in a poor family, his worries as a teenager about dying young, when he achieves a degree of success, feeling like a fraud, feeling like an imposter, feeling that sense that everything could be taken away from him, that nothing is certain. The uncertainty of what faith does to protect or bolster him against any of these things, and the song is bookended at either end by segments of a voicemail, which his cousin Carl Duckworth, who's a diehard BHI adherent, leaves him. Then the last 2 tracks, God, which is kind of a little bit tongue-in-cheek, I think, maybe about you know, his trip to the top and basically being a rap god, and what being God feels like, essentially. And then a really interesting song to close out the album, which is Duckworth, which is a true story about his father and his label boss having known each other 20 years before, when the label boss was a gangster. Top Dog is his name, and his dad was working at a drive-through chicken stand or a fast food restaurant. You know, Top Dog, you know, at some point might have actually shot his dad, but didn't. And then as luck would have it, you know, their lives became interwoven 20 years later. So, what to say about Damn? It's a really rich album. It just begs for multiple listenings. It's complex. It's disturbing. Religiously, I mean, again, I'm not coming at it from the perspective of a religious person, but it is certainly challenging from a religious point of view. It's hip hop for the mind and soul. For me, it's a 4.5 out of 5 star record.